Welcome back to another Blender tutorial. Today I'm going to be showing you how to use an automated rigging feature built into Blender to rig a simple cat. Now if you don't have your own cat model laying around, I will quickly and briefly overview where you can get one online, how to bring it into Blender from Sketchfab. But if you already have a cat model and you want to rig it, just skip ahead to the part where I start the rigging. But essentially, you don't have to even know anything about rigging, to be honest. We're just going to place a basic rig that is very simple inside of the cat that Blender already has, and then we just press a button and it generates all of these controllers, and I'll show you how we connect all of that to the cat mesh, and it's really actually quite simple. It's not at all complicated, so this is definitely a beginner-friendly tutorial. And you can see this rig here, it's very fun. You could just grab these simple controls, rotate, move, and you can see how it's so handy to get those kind of complex moves in a cat that you wouldn't really be able to do with just a really basic rig. It's got really nifty controls built in. Even this tail one here is just like absolutely my favorite, how it works. And so I hope you guys enjoy, and hopefully this is something you can use in your future projects. So if you're curious where you can get a cat to follow along, you can go to something like Sketchfab that I have here and just type in cat, and this one here is downloadable, so full credit to the person who made this. You can see here's all the information. So I'll put a link to this in the description below. All you have to do is go download a 3D model. Once you've signed up, it is free to create an account, and go ahead and download the FBX. Once the zip file is done downloading, you can go to wherever your downloads are and you can just right click on it, extract it with whatever extractor you use. I'm going to go extract it. And inside of that extracted file, you're going to see something called a source, and there is your PDF or your FBX. You're going to take that. I'm just dragging mine onto my desktop for now. And there's also the textures, which I'm just going to drag on to my desktop as well. And I'm going to close all of that. And now let's jump inside of Blender. Okay, now that we're inside of Blender, I'm just going to select everything. I'm going to press X and delete. And just in case you guys are curious about the keys I'm pressing, I'm just going to enable my screencast keys so you guys can see the keys I'm pressing. And to import an FBX, you can go to File, you can go to Import, and then go FBX. And I selected my desktop. I'm going to go ahead and grab that FBX file. I'm going to go Import FBX. And it already comes with a rig. I'm just going to select that, and I'm going to go X and delete that armature. And now we have a cat over here. So what I'm also going to do is I'm going to go to the shading workspace real quick, and I'm going to go to my materials. I'm going to quickly get rid of that material here. Under the materials, I'm going to go new, just call it cat. And just for now, I'm going to go Shift A, search. I'm going to type an image and get it here. You can also use the node wrangler tool if you want, and just drag the color into the base color. Click on open and then go to your desktop wherever you have those textures that came along. Select the base color and then go open image. So you should now be able to see the texture if you're in your material preview. Now I'm not going to go into the normal map and all of that stuff because that's not really what this tutorial is. Just so you guys have a basic cat to get started with. And I'm going to go Shift A. I'm going to also add in a quick cube, just real quick, just scaling the cat down. In fact, select the cat with all of its components and then just go and set the 3D cursor as the pivot transform, and then just scale it down just a little bit more in line with the scale here, and then go Control A or Command A and apply that scale. So I felt like it's just a little bit too big, and I'm going to select the cube and I'm going to go and delete it. And at this point, I'm just going to set everything back to median point. So to be able to add in a cat, what we need to do is we need to go to Edit, Preferences, go over to your add-ons, and up here you can search and just type in rig. You should be able to see an option here called Rigging Rigify. Make sure that is enabled so you have this feature. Then going back into the 3D space, we're going to go Shift A. Now we're going to go down to our armature, and we're going to go ahead and add in, under the animals, go to the drop down, a cat. And the same would work for a lot of other animals. Now I like to go into my front orthographic view by hitting 1 on my number pad. So that's the way that this rig is actually oriented. We can see it facing us. So let's just select the cat and all of its different parts. And then what we're going to do, let's just quickly set that back to 3D cursor. And let's just go RZ -90 and then press enter. So we want the cat facing us, and then we're just going to go Control A and just apply the rotation. Okay, so now that we have that out of the way, let's select that armature, and you can go and scale it up by pressing S to scale it. And you want to scale it roughly the size of the cat. Now, sometimes you hear people mention that, you know, scale it inside of edit mode so you don't mess up the scaling. But all you have to do is apply the scale. So scaling it in object mode is fine. So you just want to get roughly the size of the cat like this. That's good enough. Then go Control A and apply to scale. It's very important that you actually do apply to scale. So Control A or Command A to apply that. And now we have this, we can tab into edit mode. And it's inside of edit mode where we're gonna adjust everything. Now keep in mind, we don't want to come to one side working and then going to the other side when we can just mirror, especially when we're dealing with something that is symmetrical. So let's go over here and enable the X mirror up here. And because we're in a front orthographic view, if we now select a bone, it'll mirror whatever actions we do on the other side. Now, as far as being able to see through here, you can just press Z and go into wireframe, or you can come up here and click on the X-ray button and you can see through like this. So for now, I'm just going to rely on the X-ray button. So from this point on, we're just really trying to line things up. So let's start with the bottom paw here, and let's just go G in our right orthographic view and move that forward. It should all be happening on the other side. And let's just try and line just at least this leg up for now. So we can see here, clicking on this bone, if we actually go to our bone names, we can see here that it's the forearm.L. So we know that is the forearm that should be connected to the hand. It's using kind of like terms that we recognize when it comes to rigging. So I know this isn't technically a hand, it's a paw, but you guys get the idea. So we can see here, this should be the upper arm, so to speak. So let's just select that and let's move it down. So this joint should be about here, if you think about it. So coming over here to the back, we're going to just select this joint here and bring it in here. The foot is almost in the right place. We're just going to move it up and in a little bit. And then we're going to bring this joint in here. And then we're going to just drag and select these bones here. And we're just going to move them in a little bit like that. And the tail is real simple. Just select these little nubs and one by one move them down the tail like so, all the way to the end, and they should be roughly the same size there. And let's come in here now and just select some of these head bones here. So all of these, we're going to go R. In fact, let's just make sure we have our median point enabled for the pivot, the transform pivot, and we're just going to rotate this and G to move it up and just get it roughly in place here. Okay, so you can see it's not quite where it needs to be, but we just want it roughly where it needs to be. Something like that. Okay, that looks okay. And let's now go into our front orthographic view by hitting 1 on our number pad. And at this point, we can also select these paws and we can move them in a little bit. And we now just align things from the front perspective, like so. And the face is going to probably be the trickiest part. The body was not that hard. But with the ears, we want to select this top nub here. So click and drag over these, bring them to the top here, and then just bring the rest of these up to match like that. This is the bottom part of the ear. Move this one up here. So just like that, it was almost in the right place. Now if you go to the right view, you can see we need to move it forward. So this is all a matter of just taking your time and bringing these bones where they look like they should be. And you can kind of get the idea from how it's laid out. It's pretty self-explanatory. So I'm not going to say that this is the most complicated thing, but it's more just a tedious process of looking where they've roughly placed the bones for this Rigify cat, and then placing them where they look like they should be on the body. So where it gets a little bit tricky, in my opinion, is really the eyes here. I really struggled with that. The simple way is to turn off, I think, the X-ray just for now, and then press Z and then go into wireframe. And it's useful to see the wireframe here, but what we're going to do is we're going to press C, and we're just going to select, so that it brings up the C select tool, and we're just going to select these eye bones here, all the way around like that. Okay, so just these ones here. We don't want any other bones selected except them. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go Control I, and that's going to inverse selection. And then we're going to go and press H to hide it. Now we just have these eye bones isolated here, and that's going to make things a little bit easier. So I'm just going to select these bones here. I'm going to go S to scale them down. I'm going to go G to move them. And what I'm trying to do here is just line them up a little bit better with the eye. I'm going to go S to scale up or down if needed, moving them down. And at this point, you can just select them and adjust them as well. We're just trying to form the outside of the eyelid here, like so. Okay, so you guys can spend as much time as you want polishing this. I'm just going to do it quick and dirty because this is about the Rigify tool itself for a cat. So moving this in here, but you guys get the general idea of things. And this here should be the eye bone. If you click on it, you can see here under the bones, go to the top, it says eye.L. I'm going to move this here into the middle of the eye. So from this point on, I think I'm going to start speeding things up a little bit, but I just wanted you guys to mainly get the idea here of how all of this should work. Okay, so I think that's roughly in place. Now I'm going to go Alt-H to unhide everything. Then I'm just going to select this bone intersection here. I'm just going to go G and move it in a little bit. So just this kind of jawbone here, just moving it in a bit. Okay, that's already looking a lot better. Okay, so now that you guys have the idea of it, what I'm going to do is you can see the rest of these bones is the exact same deal. You can see here we have these jaw bones run down here. Okay, so I'm going to just line them up and then the little bones here at the top. And because it's kind of a repetitive process, I'm going to time lapse that. But you guys get the general idea of how this cat rig works and how it's all set up. Keep in mind, you can always use the X-ray like I've already mentioned, but more or less, things are kind of in place where they need to be here. So this is just going to be me fine-tuning things a little bit in time lapse. Okay, so now that I have the general things out of the way, I'm going to do a quick overview of the bone placement just so you guys are sure if there's anything that might not make sense. So let's just quickly enable that X-ray mode, and I'll just do one run over of it again. So you can see here, just these bones at the nose, I've just moved them forward a little bit. The ones in the eye that we've already done, they're already in place. The ear was pretty easy, and a lot of these bones you see on the outside here are just the bones that control like the cheeks and little muscles on the face. So just kind of more or less where they were to begin with, so not too hard to adjust. As you start getting into the mouth here, you can see here that these are the top lip. You can see here the bone names, lip T for the top, and then the one underneath it is a lip B. So you can see I have all of these lip B's and lip T's. You just roughly place them where the lips are like that. So inside of here, there are these tongue and teeth bones. We're not going to get into that. You probably won't even be using that unless you're going to be seeing inside of the cat's mouth. So not too worried about that. But in here, just make sure all of these are in these leg columns, if you will. Nice and centered. You don't want anything out too much or sticking out or in. And all the little feet are in their place. The tail's all cool. And once you have it in place like that, make sure to save. And then you're going to go back into object mode. And at this point, if you've scaled anything in object mode, make sure to press A to select it, Control A and apply the scale. It's actually really important because it's looking at the scale when it's going to generate the rig automatically. So now select the armature here, and then you're going to come over to your armature settings, and you're going to go down here to the Rigify button, and you're going to click on Generate Rig. And there you go. It's just taken a few seconds and automatically generated this really cool rig. Now you can see over here in your scene collection, it says rig, but you still have the original meta rig. So just make sure to click on the meta rig, and you don't want to get it mixed up. So you can just press M, go new collection with that meta rig selected, and go OK, and then just hide that. The cool thing is if you mess this thing up for whatever reason, you can always select your meta rig again and just adjust it a little bit and then generate the rig again. So it's pretty forgiving. So for now, just get rid of that. We want to click on this rig, and we're going to go into our pose mode with that. And you don't actually, these are just the control bones you're seeing here. That's not actually the things that the mesh is going to get weighted to. So under the bone properties here, the object data properties for the armature, you can see all of these are the active layers here. You're going to press A to select all of these controls, and you're going to go H to hide them. And then you're going to hold in shift, and this is very important. Hold in shift and then left click on this little layer here, this one free down from the bottom. And these bones here are our deformation bones, essentially the bones that deform the mesh. And you can actually go here to the bone properties. And if you now click on a bone, you can actually see that all of them should have the prefix DEF, which is for deformation. And that's how you know you've got the right bones there. So you're going to go back into object mode. You're now going to right click or left click on the cat. Holding in shift, you're going to select the armature last, and you're going to go Control P, and you're going to go with automatic weights. And now it's automatically weighted this cat to that rig. So select the cat, go to your modifier properties. In fact, this already had armature modifier, so just get rid of it. You can see it's kind of redded out. We only want this one right here, and you can see the object is the rig there. So that's really cool. If we were to now select this rig again, go back into pose mode. We don't actually want to use these bones to control our cat. We want to use the control. So go back to the object properties there. And what you can do is you can hold in shift and then click on this layer again to hide all of that. It's important that you hold in shift and then go Alt H to unhide all of those controllers. And now you can select these controllers. So let's select one, press G. And you can also select maybe this one here, press R to rotate. And you can see it works beautifully. So pretty cool. If you do move anything and do any transforms, just press A to select everything and then go Alt G, Alt R, and Alt S. And that just resets the movement, the rotation, and the scale. But the one thing you're going to notice here is the eyes. So we actually want to go back and do that as well. So let's just, to make things a little bit simpler here, let's just add a quick texture to those eyes. So I'm going to press Z and go into the material preview. And we did add the texture for our cat earlier. Let's just quickly select the eyes. And by the way, if you're using your own cat, I'm assuming you already have a texture. But for those following along from the cat we set up just earlier, just go over, select the eyes, and go over to your materials, and then just go to the base color of that eye, and then go image texture, click open, and then just go to the textures that you downloaded along with that FBX. And in this case, it's the eye. I'm just going to click on that, and now we can see that. This is actually one object. So what we need to do is tab into edit mode and just select both of these meshes and then go P and then go separate by loose parts. Tab back out, and now you can select both of them. Make sure they're both selected or active, and then go F3 and then type in set and then space and then type in origin and go origin to geometry. And now both of these are their own object with the origin in the center. And I'm going to go back into material preview. So let's select the rig. Let's go back into the pose mode, and this time under our object data properties, we want to select everything over here and then go H to hide it. This time we're going to hold in shift, but we're going to select the ladder layer here. So this one over here at the end, click on it while you're holding in shift. And you're going to see in here is a bone, the eye bones. Now these ones, if you look over here, they're different kind of bones. They don't deform, but they do have uses. So the one we want to pair into directly are these bones here. So let's go back into our object. Let's select the first eye, then holding in shift, select the rig in object mode, go back into pose mode, and now select the eye over here, that eye bone, go Control P, and then go bone. So not with automatic weights, but bone. And let's go back to object mode, select the other eye, holding in shift, select the rig, go into pose mode, and the exact same thing. Select this eye, .R, and then go Control P, and then go set parent to bone. So now if we go over to our object data properties, holding in shift, click on this end layer to hide it, and then go Alt H to bring back the controllers, you can now see, in fact, let's just bring back our material preview. You can now see, not only can we control our cat, we can also now select this eye control here and move it by pressing G, and we can control the cat's eyes. Pretty cool. And we have all of these little fine controllers here for little movements and controls. Even around the eye, you can use these here, make them blink, get these little face controls here. It's pretty precise, and I'm not going to get into all of that, but the main things you're going to want to look at are these things here, which are just the big box at the back. You select that, you can move the cat forward, backwards, up, and down, so pretty cool. And you can also select these two here on the end of the cat. You can rotate them, and they give this sort of bendy movement to the hips and the front paws, which is really cool for when you're making these crouching animations. And the tail is really cool. You can select this end controller here and go G to move it, and you can make the tail do this, which is really cool. And you even have these individual segments in between that you can grab, and the same for the body. You have this main controller here you can select, move the cat, and yeah, that's it. These main big controllers you see here, they're very easy to just select, click on them, and then use them. The main thing you probably want to get to learn is the IK system here. So if you press N to bring up the properties panel and you go over to item, you can see over here, this cat has an IK setup. So I'm not going to go too much into what IK versus FK, so inverse kinematics versus forward kinematics. I'm not going to cover that in detail in this tutorial. I do have a video somewhere on my channel. You guys can check out. It explains how that works. But in other words, if I were to select this main box here and I press G to move it, the whole rig doesn't go along. Some of these bones are restricted. So these paw controls here, they stay on the ground. So the cat doesn't just sink down along with everything. And that's really good. So it gives us a lot more automatic, it really automates this process and makes it more dynamic when we're animating the cat's body. But what if we wanted to bring the cat down and we wanted one of these paws to go along with it? So he's kind of leaning down. Then you can come here, these little IK bones that you see on the paws, these little red ones. You can select whichever one you want. Then you can go over here and you can increase or decrease the IK to FK value. If you take that all the way to 1, if we now select this body, that has an influence much less. So if I grab the body here and I go G to move it down, you can see the rest of the paw IKs stay up there on the floor, but that one paw goes down. So I could have them kind of leaning over and going down. And even once you've moved that, you can also come and select that IK here, and you can come here and control that influence, which by the way, you could also keyframe to animate. And that's going to give you a lot more control and power when it comes to animating, even though it's a little bit more of a complicated setup. So that's some basics of IK versus FK there. And definitely I covered that more in detail on other videos, but that is how you set up a cat rig with the Rigify. I hope this has been informative and that you guys have enjoyed it. I do have a version of this cat that I've made a little bit better with some fur and stuff. I'm going to chuck that onto my Patreon if you guys are interested. And also, if you guys want to check out my Skillshare, I'll put a link to that in the description. You can sign up for free for 1 month. And that really helps me out as well. I've got a lot of really cool Blender stuff on there that come with all of the resources and files. So definitely worth checking that out. I'll see you guys next time. And thank you for watching.